Hi, Church. Pastor Jeff here with another Trinity check-in. As promised, I want to talk to you today about Bible translations. I teased this in last Sunday's sermon. You know, the series we're doing right now, Sacred Assumptions, is taking a look at parts of the Bible that we tend to skip over. And I don't know, it's just kind of addressing the fact that most of the people who talk most loudly about the Bible are people whose theology many of us disagree with. And it's about time we retook that and claimed the Bible and got to a place where we could appreciate it more deeply. And so that's what I'm doing. But translation is part of that. And so don't get too scared. Most of this stack I'm going to go through very quickly, but I want to tell you what my preferred translations are and why, in hopes that it inspires you, or if you are needing a new Bible, or if you're using one that's difficult to read, it might give you a way to get into it better too. There's even some free options here I'll get to. So first things first, let's talk about what the Bible really is. This. The Bible was written in Hebrew and in Greek, and by the way, Hebrew reads from right to left, so they put this on the cover, on the back cover for English speakers to read, but it actually starts here. This is what the Bible actually looks like. And by the way, if this interests anybody, there's actually fascinating bits. Like you might notice there's little marks that's in the columns. Those are actually what scribes would use as error checking. If any of you are computer nerds like I am, at least a little bit of a computer nerd, they're kind of like checksums. They're interesting ancient ways to verify, or at least provide some level of verification that you have copied the text by hand correctly. But anyway, this is what the Bible really is. So what it comes down to is the fact that Hebrew words don't line up one for one with English words. The meanings change. They carry different associations. And so in every generation, we really need a new translation because the language keeps changing. And so the King James Version was the standard for a very long time, and for good reason. It was beautiful and so poetic and so well done, but it wasn't the first translation. In fact, there were many before that, and it was the first major English one. I don't know, I'm going into too much history here. So the translation that's most used for studying these days is the New Revised Standard Version, NRSV, and it's put together by the World Council of Churches, which our United Methodist Church is a part of, and it is a descendant from the King James Version. First came the Revised Standard Version, which I want to say came out in the 60s. I think it was the 60s, and then the New Revised Standard Version after that. It is also a beautiful translation, and it does the best it can to stay as close as possible to the Greek and Hebrew using all of the latest scholarship. This is my copy. They actually did an updated version of it recently where they took another pass. So now if you look, you'll find the NRSV UE updated edition. That was their attempt to do that. I personally am one who likes beautiful Bibles, and if you ever want, stop by my office and I'll let you feel this. This is some of the best leather I've found, and even the pages of this particular edition just feel good. Now, this isn't the one I use in worship most of the time because this translation, the New Revised Standard, may be the most scholarly accurate. However, well, have you ever seen, you can run a piece of writing through an algorithm and it tells you what the grade level is for reading it? Well, it turns out that the NRSV is set for, I should have looked it up. It's something like an early college reading level. Now, that's great, and it's important to stay as close as you can to the Hebrew and Greek, but it's way above the average reading level of our society. So what happened was the same committee took the same scholarship that made the NRSV, and they said, okay, let's see if we can lower that reading level, and let's see if we can do it to make it more accessible to people, and let's see if we can do it in a way that doesn't water it down, that keeps it as close as possible to the Hebrew and Greek. And that's where we ended up with the Common English Bible. That's the one that I use in worship. You probably recognize this one from me holding it in worship. The only thing I don't like is that there's no version, there's no Common English Bible that is printed beautifully. This is the closest one that I could find, and it is nice. Don't get me wrong, but I always try to have the nicest, the nicest Bible I can, because something about just picking it up and feeling it in your hands puts your head into a different space for reading it. It's wonderful. I should say that one of my professors in seminary was on the committee that helped do the translating. The way they do it is different scholars will take one of the books or parts of the books if they're a long one, and then they vote on everything as an entire group so that all the minds are involved and so that it truly is a group project and no one person's agenda can possibly be part of it. It's a great work. I got to hear about it while I was in seminary, since my professor was literally doing it while I was there. But the Common English version is fantastic. It's CEB, Common English Bible. There is also a contemporary English version, CEV. That one, however, has some slants to it that I don't recommend, but look for CEB, Common English Bible, if you want to find something like that. And I'll tell you, it really is important. There is this is another thing I should have looked up. I'll try to flash it on the screen as I edit this later. But there was a documentary a while back on Bible translations and how it fed into some of the rhetoric and the debate on LGBTQ issues that centered around Bible translation. And it just goes to show you just how important it is to use the best translation you can find. I will say a lot of the ones that are out there have a very conservative and evangelical slant. Christian fundamentalism, one of the sects of fundamentalists, has a list of fundamentals, and there are Bible translations which are designed to accentuate those. Now, that's not going back to the Hebrew and Greek, right? That's intentionally putting a theological slant. And so it's important to choose well. And as I say, my favorites are NRSV and CEB. I'll go kind of quickly here through these others just because I want to mention it. You might have heard of the Message. The Message is not a Bible translation, it's a paraphrase, which means Eugene Peterson, in this case, the guy who did it, who is fantastic and faithful, he basically put the Bible into his own words to make it very, very easy to understand. It's a good tool for study, a good tool for devotion, but it's important you don't confuse it with the actual Bible. You should always go back to the original because he puts it into his own words. No matter how faithfully he does it, it's always important to remember that it's no longer the Bible at that point. However, that said, it's a wonderful tool, and I look at that one quite often. Another thing to be aware of is study Bibles that have notes in them. The CEB Study Bible happens to be one of the best, and in fact, it's become a highly respected thing. The way study Bibles work, just open it randomly here. Let's see, we're in Isaiah. You can see the Bible text on the top, and then at the bottom you see notes to help you understand it. Now, it's necessarily brief because the Bible's already quite long, but it really does help. And the Common English Bible Study Bible has become one of the leading ones because of just how well it's done. I actually borrowed this one from Sophie on our staff here. She went on Amazon and found these tabs that somebody was selling pretty cheap too, and so that's also kind of a neat thing that you can do. I have a student Bible, a youth Bible. This is the one that I read through when I was young that helped me a lot. This is the Wesley Study Bible. This is a leather one that somebody gave me as a gift. The notes in this one particularly relate to John Wesley and Methodism. This is another one. If you're really into Bible study, the New Interpreter's Study Bible is one that has especially good notes as well. Though to be totally honest with you, if anybody asks, I would recommend to you the CEB Study Bible. That's the one to go after. That said, I have all these Bibles, but I hardly ever touch them because most of the time I use this. My iPad, the same one I always have on the pulpit on Sunday morning. This is the Bible that I use most of the time. You can see there, I don't remember what I had that open to. Matthew. Oh, that's right. I was writing a sermon this morning and looking at the scripture for it. It's a great tool to be able to do that. Well, I don't have it set up right now. I even have it to where you can have the Greek and the Hebrew, and then you tap on a word and it shows you the Greek and Hebrew, and you can read what the original word means, and sometimes it unlocks some nuance and meaning that you wouldn't find another way. That's a tool that I especially like to use. If you're a digital type like I am, I also have this on my phone. That's actually where I read the Bible most often. I like the Olive Tree app. That's a little bit specific to me because it has references like, in fact, I have the CEB study Bible I have in this. That's why I had to borrow Sophie's for the physical example. But it also has some of the seminary type pastory kind of references that I use in Olive Tree. If you want, Bible Gateway is a free website that you can use. Now there are ads on it, of course. They probably have a paid plan. But Bible Gateway has Common English Bible and NRSV updated edition on it, and it's free to use and a very good resource. If you look at our growth group questions, I always turn the scripture into a link, and Bible Gateway is where I send that. There's another app called YouVersion. It's a nice looking app, and it has good reading plans, and it will bug you with notifications so that you actually read the Bible more. Be a little careful because some of their study plans have theologies that go kind of strange places. That said, it is a good way, and if it gets you reading the Bible, that's always a good thing to do. There's so many good ways to read the Bible. What's important is that you do it. However, if all you have is an old King James, or if all you have is an older translation like that, then I wouldn't want you to pick up your Bible less often just because it's difficult to do. It is really worth it to get yourself a Common English Bible. You can find them on Amazon. Cokesbury, our United Methodist publisher, is the one who actually makes it and publishes it. But it's important to have a translation that you can enter into easily, just to remove the barriers between you and understanding the text. That's why I use this one in worship every week, because it's not that you all can't handle New Revised Standard, not by a long shot. But when you hear it, and when you only have one chance to hear it, I want there to be as little barrier as possible between you and understanding what's going on. And I'll tell you, CEB actually helps. It has actually shed light on things. There have been a few things I've learned from it that I didn't realize, that I actually questioned. And I'm like, wait, why did they say it like that? And I pulled out all my big references from seminary, and sure enough, they were right. But I learned it because of this. So I would encourage you to get something like that if you don't have a good Bible. If you have any questions, let me know. You know I love to answer things like this. And I thought I'd end by showing off one more thing. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the Folio Society. It's a place for book nerds, I guess. They're a publisher who tries to publish the best quality that they can, and things that feel as best as they possibly can. I mentioned earlier how I especially like to find Bibles that feel good because they put me into a better headspace and make me appreciate more and help me tune in to what I'm reading. Well, one of the favorite things that I have in my office is a Folio Society Book of Psalms. And these are from the King James Version. And even just feeling, this isn't even leather, this is just fabric, feeling it and feeling the paper. Like, it's rare you encounter paper that makes you go, ah. And I'll tell you, I've developed such reverence for the Psalms over the years that whenever I pick up this one, and whenever I open it up, and whenever I see even just the beauty of the ribbon, which also seems to be something special, and how beautifully they've typeset all of the letters. I don't know. I mean, that's not the words of God, but what it does do is communicate to my brain, communicate even to my body, the place in our lives that these words deserve. And so I'm glad that I have at least enough means to do that. I'll tell you what, since I have this open, Why don't I turn to the 23rd Psalm, and I'll read it from this, and we can use that to close today. I do hope you'll come this Sunday. We're going to talk about the passage in 1 Timothy that says that women shouldn't teach men, and we're going to talk about what's really going on there and how we can read the Bible and appreciate it more deeply rather than just skipping over that bit because we know in our guts it's wrong. We're going to talk about LGBTQ, which is kind of the same kind of example, and I hope you'll be there for that. Future weeks of the series, we're going to talk about the violence in the Old Testament. We're going to talk about the end times. These study Bibles may come into play for those. So I do hope you'll be a part of that. For now, though, let's hear the 23rd Psalm from this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. See you soon, church.